Welcome to Witch Talks, the series for spiritual seekers, witches, and enlightened souls. I'm Hana the Suburban Witch, professional tarot reader, astrologer, and witch, and I hope you're ready to get up close and personal with your favourite witches. Hello. I am so happy to have you back with me today for another Hana Help Me episode where I answer your questions. If you have a question, please send it through to info@suburbanwitchery.com. Now, the title of today's episode is Help, I Like the Bad Boys. And this is the question that prompted that title. This comes in from Peter. And Peter says, Hana, help me. Are we allowed to worship eviler deities? For example, Astaroth. Now, this is such a great question, and it's one that I think comes up over and over for many people. If getting into deity work, spirit work, and things like that is something that you're curious about, there are a couple of other episodes that you might want to listen in on as well as this one. The first is Help, Do I Need to Feed My Spirits? And the other one is Hana Help Me, Is a Deity Calling Me? From season 2. There are a few others that lean into this theme question as well. And the episode with Michelle Boulanger about demons and negative entities. Speak of the devil. I will be using Michelle Boulanger's book, The Dictionary of Demons, to chat about this question today. Alright, so first thing to address, are we allowed to worship evil deities? First part answer is, are we allowed? Of course, you're allowed to do anything you want within reason, within your own set of morals and ethics, and also the law and legalities. Yeah, you're allowed to. When it comes to your own spiritual practice, it is for you and you alone. You do not need my permission. You do not need anybody's permission to run your spiritual practice however it works best for you. Another caveat is, whilst your free will allows you to work with, I guess, any deity that you choose, there are deities from closed practices that personally I would not recommend you pursue. Many have been known to be offended by people who are uninitiated approaching them. So that is one thing to keep in mind around closed practices. It's also just disrespectful. But in a more broader term of deities that may be seen as demonic in origin, perhaps, then we can move on to the next part of the question, which is around A, worship, and B, entities being evil. Firstly, worship. I personally get vibes off that word that bring me straight back into the church. So you'll hear in my episodes that I often don't use the word worship. I work with Thoth as my deity. Thoth is the deity that I work with. I use the term work with because what I grew up in terms of worship was very different, and I don't want that in my spiritual practice. That doesn't work for me personally anymore. I'm not going to be worshipping. I will give offerings, which some may say is a form of worship, but for me it feels very different. It's like we have a respectful alliance, if that makes sense. But you can worship if worship is what feels right to you. There are some gods, some goddesses who in a way demand that. The Christian God, of course, being one. But on to the next part, the evil aspect. Okay, evil is a very interesting term. There is a really interesting quote that I've been seeing popping up everywhere quite recently in response to the current political climate. And this is a quote by Gustav Mark Gilbert, who was an American psychologist best known for his writings containing observations of high-ranking Nazi leaders during the Nuremberg trials. Now, this quote says, "I told you once that I was searching for the nature of evil. I think I've come close to defining it. A lack of empathy. It is the one characteristic that connects all the defendants, a genuine incapacity to feel with their fellow man. Evil, I think, is the absence of empathy." End quote. But Hana, we're talking about deities and spirits and gods and goddesses. Surely they don't need to have empathy. Could they have empathy? Is that even relevant? Well, I think it is. I personally think it is. Now, I get it. Sometimes we feel inexplicably drawn to the darker things, darker deities, darker gods, darker goddesses, demons, demon work, demonolatry. There is darker aspects within the occult that can draw us in, and that's okay, and that is not a bad thing. There are reasons we have these gods and goddesses of the night, of the crossroads, of death. Death is a part of life, and working with spirits of that nature can be cathartic, it can be healing, it can teach us something. So there is nothing wrong with anyone who feels drawn to these aspects. That's totally fine. I have a really good example to share with you around the nature of evil when it comes to deities and demons and things like this. We're going to start with Pazuzu. I will get to Astaroth. I'm going to circle back to that. I'm not usually a circle back guy, but apparently today I am. Pazuzu is a well-known demonic name. Pazuzu is the main antagonist in The Exorcist, which, by the way, is quite a good read, if I don't say so myself. The Exorcist was a novel from 1971 by William Peter Blatty. Now, you might not know this because they aren't explicitly named in the first movie or even in the book. They're kind of inferred to, and you can maybe put two and two together. But in Exorcist 2, The Heretic, Pazuzu is named as the demon that returns to haunt Regan, if you have seen that or want to see that. Sorry for the spoilers. Anyways, Pazuzu is a very ancient demonic figure. So Pazuzu was usually regarded as evil, as he was both a personification of the destructive and dangerous wind, but he was apotropaic in nature, which meant he was also seen as a repellent to other demons. So he could be a deity that you call upon, or a demon that you call upon to safeguard your home from other demons. He was also known to protect pregnant women and mothers whom he could defend from the demoness Lamashtu. So we can see here, if you've ever seen The Exorcist or read the book, I'm sure it's pop culture, right? That is shown as like the worst possible, evilest, oh my goodness, demon out there. But he has two sides. Most deities will have a couple of different sides to them. There are very few that are just one thing and one thing only, because that's not usually nature. So let's look to Astaroth now, since that is who Peter named in their question. I am referencing the Dictionary of Demons, Names of the Damned by Michel Boulanger. So Astaroth is one of the 72 demons named in the Goetia. He is said to hold the rank of duke with command over 40 legions of lesser spirits. And he takes the shape of an obscene and loathsome angel, riding an infernal dragon and carrying a viper in his right hand. That's the depiction in the Pseudomonarchia Daemonum. In others, he's depicted as a naked man with angel's wings riding a dragon, and listed as the prince of the demonic order of accusers and inquisitors. But he's known to teach the liberal sciences, and like many of the goetic spirits, he will also discourse on matters of the past, present, and future, as well as the secrets of occult knowledge. So if you're looking for heavenly knowledge of the past, present, and future, if you want to extend your knowledge, this could be a really good spirit entity to work with. However, there is a note here that he is known to have horribly fetid breath. So keep that in mind, because when we choose to work with these spirits, deities, gods, goddesses, one thing we have to be careful of is sometimes we can take on their qualities. Now, I mean, you might start working together and notice your breath suddenly smells bad. I don't know. It could happen. Or perhaps Astaroth lets you know they're around because you get a weird or gross or fetid smell in the air. Like, do you want that? Is that something you would like? He's also known to speak freely. Like, maybe you'll notice that you open up a lot more about people, or maybe you speak too much, right? You tell them too much. You're like, whoops, I wasn't supposed to say that. So we have to think about these things. It's what I always say with the Christian God is seen as quite wrathful, vengeful, judgmental, and those are some traits that I would say we see in their followers. Now, the Book of Oberon describes him as a horrible spirit who should not be allowed near those who summon him. For those who dare to work with him, he is said to give true answers when asked about any events from the past, present, or future, and teaching the 7 liberal arts. What they are, I'm not sure. Dear listener, this is Hana from Editing Mode. I got annoyed at myself for saying that and not just looking it up. So I have looked it up for you. According to the National Gallery of London, there were 7 liberal arts which were the subjects of secular education in the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. They were codified in late Roman antiquity. These were divided into the trivium, which was grammar, logic, and rhetoric, and the quadrivium, which is geometry, arithmetic, astronomy, and music. Remember, back then, astronomy and astrology were one and the same. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. So, he can teach, he can show, apparently has the power to discover mines and transmute metals, reveal the location of treasure, but has impressive powers of destruction, causing tempests and demolishing buildings, transforming men and animals. So yet again, just like with Pazuzu, we're getting this almost blend of destructive nature and also beneficial. When you're drawn to any of the demonic entities particularly, you're probably going to get a more heavy swing of extremes in that regard. But we can even look to maybe a goddess like Aphrodite or Venus, generally known as the goddess of love, right? Oh, that's a beautiful, soft, gentle, lovely goddess to work with. But you do not want to get on her bad side. She can be very destructive as well. She also caused the famous Trojan War. And being on her bad side, I mean, she has the largest number of epithets related to the sea. Now, if you are a sailor and you somehow get on the bad side of Aphrodite, that's probably going to spell a bit of disaster for you. So even the deities that we consider to be all good have another side to them. And this is where I think we need to remove the fear aspect around this kind of work. Now, if you do have fear going into this, maybe start with a more well-known one before digging deeper into especially the demonic ones, just to learn the ropes a little bit first, or at least start slow. Now, in the Dictionary of Demons, it does say that there was a bit of a gender switch along the way with Astaroth, as originally they were one of the Semitic goddesses, Astarte, from Ugaritic, Phoenician, and Akkadian sources, a cognate of the Babylonian goddess Ishtar, and connected with forbidden things in the Bible. So the switch to a male demonic entity was part of the demonization of those religious practices. And fun little final fact on this, the day for Astaroth is Wednesday. That is his day. The demon of Wednesday. I love that. My deity Thoth also rules over Wednesdays, and my podcast comes out on Wednesdays. How wonderful. When working with any of the Ars Goetia demons, it can be helpful to use their sigil in your workings. This is not my super duper area of expertise, so I would recommend that you read up on the Ars Goetia. Alright, so a book you could start with is The Lesser Key of Solomon. There is an amazing podcast which is called What Magic Is This? With Douglas Batchelor. There is a really, really great episode on the Goetia and the Ars Goetia that I recommend you listen to. And perhaps look into demonolatry, which is the worship of demons. You did use the word worship, you've mentioned a demon by name. Perhaps this is a path calling to you, and it might be something worth diving into deeper. So Peter and everybody else listening, I hope that this has helped you feel a little bit more comfortable learning about and diving deeper into some of the forces and spirits out there portrayed as evil, and open your eyes to see that might not always be the case. I do believe that most of the spirits out there do have empathy and do have more than one side to them. Learning their history, the changes that's happened to their name, their history over time can be so eye-opening. The Dictionary of Demons is a fantastic book. If this is a topic that you enjoy, highly, highly, highly recommend that one. Now, next week on the podcast, I have an incredible interview with Karen Rontowski, who is known as the Psychic Comedian. So get ready for some big laughs with that one. It is already available as an uncut episode for Suburban Witches Society members. And I've already had so many comments saying it is absolutely hilarious. Some other things that are happening in the society at the moment. I am currently creating an amazing resource on spell work for different health ailments, basically. So when you get a cold, what sort of spells can you do for that? If you have a migraine, how can you magically assist? So that will be an amazing resource, and just one of the many, many amazing resources in the society. I hope you come and join us. I would love to see you there. But for now, I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world today, and I'll chat with you next time.